Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST, Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Striker, his name's Joe Pisapia, and this is the place for those that want to dominate. Season-long fantasy still going on, DFS, straight-up wagering. We've got you covered. At SportsGrid TV, those are the social media handles. Do yourself a favor, double-check that you're following along. A lot of information coming here. Joey P, come on in. Joe, I got to be honest. I'm not going to lie to the people. It's week 18, all right? I get it. You joked before we came on the air, teams don't tackle. I'm in New York. Yeah. It's real feel 20 degrees with wind blustery of 40 degrees gusts. How do we navigate a day like today? Because there's money on the table. There's incentives. There's teams playing for positioning. Mm-hmm. So let's have a fun day today and keep everyone's spirits high. What's up?
Well, I have one word for everybody. Overs. You know why? Because like Matt said, guys don't want to tackle. Defenses have already said, look, I got a plane to catch in a couple hours. I really don't care. As you said, it's 20 degrees out in some places or even less in others, and they're just done. Most of them. Now, some teams have something to play for. Tonight, certainly, two teams that have a lot to play for, Minnesota and Detroit. You have the Denver Broncos trying to win and get in the playoffs. Now the pressure's been put on them by the Cincinnati Bengals last night. We'll break down those games, too, from a fantasy perspective, talk about those. But there's still a lot of money to be made today by the players and by everybody else watching the show today, because there's a lot of incentives. We're going to go through some of those incentives, how you can make money on them in the prop market today, because I think that's something people tend to forget about a little bit. And as you said, check out, and that's a good opportunity in DFS and in the wagering community to make some cash, because people are motivated by money. I know Matt Striker is. That's the only reason he puts up with me every single week of his life for the last 4.5 years. It's money. That's what motivates that man, and that's why he is stuck with me after all this time. But if you're still playing your fantasy leagues in Week 18, it's a problem. Don't do this. Why do you do this to yourself? Championship should not be decided in Week 18 because so many guys are checked out and not playing. It's over. But some lunatics do that, and we're going to try to help those people too. But you really, after this year, need to write a strongly worded letter to your commissioner saying, please don't do this, Matt, because it's a terrible, terrible idea.
Why am I the commissioner? Why am I getting all of this mail? And by the way, lunatic from the Latin madness of the moon. And we can have that conversation. I have a feeling, folks, that that's the kind of show that this is going to be. This is going to be the kind of show where we just let loose. Not that we don't do it each and every week for the last however many years, but I think it's going to be that kind of feel, Joe. But I like what you said, that there's still money. So if everyone else is gone, that doesn't mean the money loses its value. So let's take some of it home.
Yes. Also going home, apparently, OC Ken Dorsey and offensive line coach Andy Dickerson. The Browns have fired both of those guys. So, the Browns obviously not letting go of Kevin Stefanski yet, because Stefanski has another year on his contract. And in my opinion, he's actually a pretty good football coach. He has been dealt with an impossible set of circumstances in Cleveland with the Deshaun Watson situation. Last night was a debacle of playing Bailey Zappi and having to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson back and forth, too. Why you just didn't start one for a half or the other one for a half so you could just get in a groove. I'll never understand that. But alas, changes already going on. I'm sure Monday we'll have a lot of head coaching changes. Yeah. So shout out to our producers there behind the ones and twos. Adam Schefter is the one reporting that. So get ready, kids. It's not going to be the last person going home today. But we should get to the headlines here and, again, talk about those Denver Broncos. The Broncos, a team that I think most of us felt was in a rebuild. Well, guess what? They're in the playoff hunt. They win, they are in, they lose. It's an unfortunate set of circumstances. But Bo Nix, regardless, a good season for him, an encouraging season to build upon. Certainly some things they can fix going into next year, but Sean Payton's done a great job. I don't know about you, Matt, but I did not think the Denver Broncos would be sitting here Week 18 and talking about them being relevant, especially the way they started off the season.
No, not at all. And later on in the show, I'm sure we'll do a deeper dive into rookie quarterbacks overall. I don't think anyone thought that Bo Nix would be doing what he's doing. But that aside, when you look at how the playoff brackets could shake out, they would go in and they play Buffalo. So I almost feel, I guess it's just talking from a wagering perspective, that, we want that. But the other situations that could emerge from today, given certain wins and losses, could be far more desirable.
All right, an update on Tua Tagovailoa. They were going back and forth. It seems as though we're getting to a place where he is not going to play today now. The hip injury makes him doubtful, unlikely. Well, look, playoffs are on the line here.
Yes.
So that's the whole thing. And Mike McDaniel, his job might be on the line to a certain extent. The Dolphins are a really miserable team. 0 Pro Bowlers for the Dolphins roster this year. Expectations were high. People thought, and I was one of them, that they could even challenge for this division because Buffalo looked like a team that was also in a retool mode. Obviously, that was not the case. People thought the Jets were going to be better than they were. Unfortunately, they were not. And the Dolphins had expectations this year. Like, this might be the window where they can start to push forward. But unfortunately, it's the same old Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, an incomplete season, unfortunately, due to injuries yet again with a concussion. The inability of the organization to give them a stable veteran backup that they could plug and play. If you're going to miss 5-6 games a year, you need to have somebody who can cover those games. Tua, when he played, obviously from the stats, 19 touchdowns, 7 picks, he played relatively well. Jalen Waddle, a very disappointing season. His draft stock next year is going to be at a huge value. I'm probably going to take that plunge. But you have to get a better backup quarterback situation. And Mike McDaniel, maybe the act is running a little thin in Miami. Do you think maybe the personality is great and it's all fun and games until you don't win enough games?
So I think we're seeing a shift. We're feeling it overall, not just in sports. And I saw it encompassed, I thought, in a great picture. I think it must have been on X or Twitter, whatever it's called these days. It's a side-by-side of Tom Landry and Mike McCarthy. And it was outlining the differences just overall, but the differences in society and what the coaches wore on the sidelines and how they looked. And here's McCarthy, McDaniel with the high capri pants. And this, you know what I mean? He just looks like a kid that I buy pot from. Not that I do. But the point is
might be
that...
you could.
If he doesn't have a job, exactly. Especially in Miami. But no, I'm with you. I hear that it's a disappointment. A lot of people put a lot of money into that stock, and it just wasn't there. I mean, 0 Pro Bowlers, you can't argue for a guy that deserves to be on the team. Did anyone get snubbed? I mean, I'd have to dive deeper. But
no.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Nobody got snubbed. Aaron Rodgers, this could be the swan song, at least for the Jets. So, as I said last week, I got to start rooting for Aaron Rodgers because the alternative is an Aaron Rodgers podcast next year, I'm sure, if he's not playing football. So, I hope he finishes strong. That's it. Please.
Bring him to SportsGrid. Aaron Rodgers to SportsGrid. Aaron Rodgers to SportsGrid for a podcast. We will challenge McAfee and all those guys. He's going with them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we can campaign all we want. But go ahead.
I guess. But look, 16 games for him, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. 3,600 yards. This is about what I had him projected for. And I think people, will say, oh, this is a disappointment. But really, this is in line with the constant decline of the Aaron Rodgers career. If you go back to the last year or two in Green Bay, this is not news, people. Now, recovering from the injury, obviously, was going to be a difficult scenario. You saw Kirk Cousins struggle with that same return from the injury as well. I don't think they were quite the same guy. And maybe it's just the rust of playing football. Maybe it's the age catching up, or maybe it's just, that natural decline of the athlete. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's been bad. And the New York Jets, if I told you, Matt, that going into the season, and this is my big speech for my flag football tournament team on Tuesday, an average NFL team wins 8 games, 9 games, right? Somewhere in that range, right? Then there's better and worse. I told you you could have a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, arguably the best young running back in the league, and a good defense. How many wins do you think that team would have? I guarantee you people would say 12, 13 wins. Sure. Jets have 4. So it's an incredibly huge disappointment. Now, do you think this is the end of Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets?
What if he goes to Miami? Would you like to see him under center in the Aqua? Come on now.
I don't know if he can run that offense. Miami. I don't know if he can run that offense. I'll be honest with you. The offense he runs in New York with Hackett is a very simple, outdated sort of offense. And the McDaniel one is the opposite. It's extremely complicated. Now, can he? Probably. He's a smart guy. I do believe that.
He would simplify.
But he's not used to that kind of offense. And I know it's tough for Matt to learn things over 40. When we return, we start to look at Week 18. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes, the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Oh, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. It is indeed week 18, and we are just laughing. This was just now referred to as a Sabado Gigante of sports, and I'm not going to get out of my head. And now here's Joe to play guitar, except he doesn't have a mustache. Joe, it's time for Fantasy Booms. Let's have fun with this.
You don't know what I have or don't have.
This is true. He might have a mustache, but I don't want you to offend anyone. So,
all right.
Uh-oh, he's looking at me like challenge.
No. It's too early. We got a whole hour and a half at least left of the show. I don't want to get fired in the first or second segment. That's too early. Maybe the sixth segment. Maybe that's where we go.
The Fantasy Booms, we alluded to it, all kidding aside. I think that's why we're in such a good mood. I mean, we know it's a loosey-goosey kind of playing week. We're hopeful that everyone is up and is deep into the plus money. That's the whole goal, especially heading into the playoffs. But right now we have a chance to really have some fun. So Fantasy Booms, we're going to talk some opportunities that are out there and the hows and the whys. So Joe, let's start with Baker Mayfield, right? Against New Orleans.
Not a lot of teams. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say against New Orleans, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Mike Evans situation and the fact that, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, Marshawn Lattimore is not playing, correct? On the other side?
Well, Marshawn Lattimore is no longer in New Orleans, so that's going to be tough for him to play for them still. It's one of those things.
What am I conflating? Who's the corner that's missing on New Orleans?
He got traded. He got traded earlier.
No, I'm not
in
thinking
the
it's not Lattimore. There's a corner that
there is another corner. Everybody on the Saints is hurt. Don't feel bad. You might have to play this afternoon for the New Orleans Saints at some point. But you're right. Marshawn Lattimore is not going to be playing for the Saints because he ain't there no more. But I will say this. Baker Mayfield, the reigning undisputed intercontinental most valuable player of the NFL season. He just is. And it's time to put some respect on his name. In Superflex leagues heading into this season, Baker Mayfield was ranked somewhere around QB 16, give or take, right? People are like, well, he's like a fringy QB1 kind of guy, despite the fact that he was a top 10 quarterback in fantasy last year. Without looking at, you want to take a guess where Baker Mayfield is overall in fantasy QB range? Tell me, where do you think he is right now in the ranks for this season? 2024.
He's a top
QB what?
7 quarterback.
QB 5.
Yeah.
QB 5 overall in statistics. Incredible season. And New Orleans has nobody left. They have no incentive to play this game. Tampa, obviously, they win this division. It's an important situation for Mike Evans today, as you mentioned. The last 2 games, he's gone over 300 yards. He's thrown for 288 or more in 4 of his last 5 contests and 5 of his last 6 contests. He has thrown for at least 1 touchdown in 5 straight weeks as well. He had an incredible performance against Carolina, 5 touchdowns last week, won a lot of people fantasy championships if you had him. And look, I expect more of the same today. Baker Mayfield's done a tremendous job. Mike Evans was a player that I was starting to get a little worried about. Usually guys, when they get into their 30s at the wide receiver position, start to tail off a little bit. Mike Evans has been tremendous. Jalen McMillan has stepped up in that void too, where Chris Godwin got hurt. You had Kate Otten step in and fill that void as well for a few weeks. But really, the Bucky Irving, Rashad White backfield has been very solid for this team. They have found some new identities as the season's gone on. And I think the leadership of Baker Mayfield is a big part of that. And I think going into next year, you might see people still not rank him as a QB1, and I think that's just wrong. So you're getting a huge value on Baker Mayfield. I just missed out on him in a Superflex draft this past year that I was right about to just sneak in there. I already had Lamar Jackson. I was like, ooh, I could get Baker Mayfield here, and he went like 2 picks before. But
Of course he did.
Baker Mayfield this week against New Orleans, certainly a guy that you want to make sure you have in your lineups. He could have a very big day against the New Orleans Saints.
All right, big day, big game. Let's go to Detroit and Minnesota. I mean, this has to be the marquee matchup of the day and night. There's a running back. There is an opportunity, Joe. Walk us through it.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs certainly an opportunity, especially with David Montgomery not around. So this is going to be a tough one here. It's a high total, too, 56.5, a very high total. Now, typically speaking, these games with Detroit tend to go over, but, with Jahmyr Gibbs, I think you're looking at some individual props for him. You saw, since David Montgomery's been out, him pick up that workload back-to-back weeks with over 100 yards rushing. So if you're looking at the Jahmyr Gibbs props, I think you want to look for the overs. He's also got a touchdown in 3 straight games, so he's a really good pairing there with the over on the rushing yards and the touchdown. It's a great way to get into the plus money there if you're going to wager on Jahmyr Gibbs today. And this is what we're trying to do here. The intersection of fantasy and wagering, that's what FST is all about. So we can make some money on Jahmyr Gibbs today. And of course, in DFS lineups as well, he would be a guy getting a lot of opportunity. And also in the passing game too. We know what a great receiver he is. And with that ferocious pass rush of the Minnesota Vikings, you got to get rid of football quickly. And that's where Jahmyr Gibbs shines.
All right, Seattle is at the Rams, a team, the Rams, that have punched their ticket. They'll play Washington. Does that bode well for anyone in particular on Seattle?
Yeah, look, Jackson Smith-Njigba to me is a big breakout guy. I know last week was disappointing here, only 32 yards, and of course let a lot of people down. But look, he is wide receiver 8 on the season. He's got over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 96 catches on the year. I'd be looking for the overs on his receptions, the overs on his yardage total. I know in Hour 2 will break it down more, but I think JSN is in a really good spot, and the Rams are sitting their starters, so there's no reason why Seattle can't go out there, put on one last good show, and be confident that next year they are going to be a contender for that West again.
And I think there's a Geno Smith incentive as well. You can check that out, so that helps a little bit more. And then finally, Jacksonville at Indianapolis. What do you expect from this game?
A lot of Brian Thomas Jr. and a lot of points. The 44.5 is the number for this contest. It's indoor. Matt mentioned the weather being an issue in a lot of spots. Weather's not going to be an issue in Indianapolis. It's inside. Not to mention the Colts offense gave up 30-plus points to Drew Lock and the Giants last week. The Jaguars all year have been giving up a ton of yardage. So this one should be a bit of a shootout. I don't expect a lot of defense in this one. So give me Brian Thomas Jr., a guy who is leading all rookies in receiving yards with 1,179. He has 10 touchdowns on the year, 122 targets and 80 receptions. With a game to go, BTJ has just been absolutely fantastic. And a lot of us were panicking when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, thinking, oh, man, maybe, just maybe, BTJ is a sell. Well, if you sold him, you did a bad job, because even with Mac Jones, Brian Thomas Jr. has been that dude. So look for BTJ to go over his props today and finish the season very strong. Probably the best rookie wide receiver, despite Malik Neighbors' talent, unfortunately. BTJ has been the guy that really has put up a better overall statistical season. We'll see next year if that worm turns at all, but certainly BTJ worthy of a lot of praise. When we come back, we're going to take a look at last night, what went down in the Saturday standalone games.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac. Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because it's parody. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST, Fantasy Sports Today. What started out with glee and joy is quickly devolving into just misanthropic nonsense, Joe. Come on, man. We've got to steer it back. Some funny stuff being said in the break, and it's all about what we're about to talk about, folks. Yesterday's games, the Saturday fantasy recap. Just, Joe, I think that they put on a good version of Saturday, for so to speak, to kind of pick up from some of the things that they missed. But overall, what did you think? I think because it's closer and all the games meant something, that to me was a little more intriguing.
Yeah, look, the schedule's really worked out for the Ravens, let's be honest. I mean, they caught the Steelers on a losing streak, on a downward trajectory last week. And, and now, you have the Giants and the Browns sandwiching those two. I mean, it's a good situation here for the Baltimore Ravens. And for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to feel strong. That's what this was. This game looked like a blowout. The number was like 17.5, I think, in most markets yesterday. And they covered. They covered by a lot. 35-10 was the final score in this game. Lamar Jackson, 217, 2 touchdowns. A great performance by Derrick Henry, 20 rushes for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also caught a few balls. Rashad Bateman had a touchdown, 5 catches for 76. But I think when you're looking at the Baltimore side of things, too, and just laughing hysterically at the concept of, Derrick Henry's rushing prop coming into the year. Remember, it was 925.5. And I don't know if I've ever bet something so quickly in my entire life when I saw it, where it was just so obvious. And just in case you're keeping score at home, 1921, that's what he's finished at. So almost 2,000 yards for Derrick Henry. So basically around 9, I think he cashed this in, right? It's just unbelievable for Derrick Henry, what he's done this year. And people would be talking a lot more about it if not for Saquon also going over 2,000 yards and chasing Eric Dickerson. Now, they're going to end up a lot closer in terms of rushing leaders. I also had Derrick Henry shares to lead the league in rushing, and unfortunately, that's going to come up a little shy, but the process was good. 1,900 yards, Matt. The process was good. People were worried, Derrick Henry's 30. Oh, they cast him away. He went to the Baltimore Ravens, a team that ran the football more than anybody else, more efficiently than anybody else in 2023. What did you think was going to happen, folks? You think King Henry was going to just fade away into oblivion? Now, here's the thing. It hurts Lamar Jackson's MVP stock. It shouldn't, but it does, because Derrick Henry's been so great and Lamar Jackson has been so great along with him. The argument, I think, remains, well, Josh Allen's getting it done with no Derrick Henry, no Stephon Diggs, no sort of star power around him. If you were a voter, is that the same argument? Does it hold weight with you? Would you vote for Josh Allen or Lamar?
No, I get it. There's a lot to it. Is who means more to their team. The first thing I always do when we used to do this as kids is take that person off of the team. What does that team look like? That's a big deal. So with Josh Allen, you might say that Cook isn't a household name, but look at the numbers. He's been incredibly efficient, and any fantasy manager will be slamming down saying, yo, I'm so glad I drafted him. But to your point, yeah, Derrick Henry takes a lot of the shine. It's like when Joe, you know what it is? It's like when you and Cool Hand Luke, our producer, walk into a room, both really good-looking guys. It kind of takes away, I mean, one of you should walk in first.
True,
let the whole room absorb your handsomeness, if that's a word, and then the other one walks in. But yeah, man, it's Josh Allen for that reason. Not because he's better looking, but because of what you said about Derrick Henry.
Well, look, not much to talk about from the Browns here, except they're a mess, and now they've fired their OC. So there you go. Going to the other contest here, the Bengals took care of their business, 19-17. And I'm going to go on a rant here because at the end of the first half, there's 43 seconds left in this game. And it was a 4th and 1, and they had just missed it already, but they had an opportunity there to pick up the yard again or just punt. And the Steelers don't have an offense capable of going 60 yards in 43 seconds with one timeout. I'm watching it going, there is no way they're going to hike the ball here. They're just trying to get them to jump off sides, and they'll take the penalty and punt, right? It's 0 degrees basically feel. It's very cold. It's been a kind of an underwhelming first half. Defense has played really well. And what does Mike Tomlin do? He decides to go for it. Yeah. And he ends up giving over the ball, giving up 3 points. And guess what? That's the 3 points that cost you this game because you lost 19-17. And I could not believe that decision was made. You don't have that kind of offense right now. They could go down the field and score anyway in that amount of time. And they proved it at the end of the game because they fell short that way too. It's just infuriating to me. And Mike Tomlin is a great football coach, probably a Hall of Fame football coach. Yet at the same time, the last couple of years, we keep seeing him make these kind of decisions where it's one thing to have confidence in your players. It's another thing to make bad decisions based on what you have to work with at the time. The defense played well. They held this Joe Burrow offense to under 20 points. You should win that game. They didn't. Jamar Chase was constantly open anyway. Joe Burrow took 1 million hits and 1 million sacks, still found a way to win this football game. T. Higgins is going to get paid. And folks, the Bengals just might find themselves in the playoffs. And the Steelers find themselves without any momentum entering the playoffs. We'll be right back after this.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST, Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate and have fun. At SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV, those are our social media handles, and the request has come down the line. This is coming from the top of the food chain here at SportsGrid, Joe. As I understand it, it's time for FST Week 18 DFS plays, but you must do a portion of the segment as either Beavis or Butthead. This is what has been said to me by the higher-ups. How do you respond?
I respond as, what year is it? Although I do like the reboot. The reboot's pretty good. I don't know if you've watched any of it. I'd like to see Mike Judge make more movies. You know, Mike Judge gave us Office Space. He gave us Idiocracy. Why isn't Mike Judge making more films? I think that's really the question.
Money, and he doesn't want to be bothered. I think that's the answer.
Anyway, but so
let's look at there always is, and that's why people like you exist. Thank you, God. Okay, it's time for the DFS Week 18 plays, and I think this is where you're savvy. This is where you buy the boat. You know what I mean? This is where you kind of have the rotund belly and the cigar when you come back and people say, hey, how did you make your money? Was it in crypto? Was it in currency reevaluation? No, it was in Week 18 DFS. Joe, let's get us there. Let's start with the running backs. Bijan Robinson, 9,200. Jonathan Taylor, 8,500. Rico Dowdle, 7,100. I'll let you pick it up from there. Where can we find some value? Let's build some lineups.
Well, certainly some value with Ray Davis all the way at the bottom at 6,200 because the Bills are resting all their starters. So you imagine Ray Davis is going to work. And he's a nice little running back who's been in the system all year as a rookie, and he has performed relatively well. Certainly has some goal line opportunity also in this game. We'll see against the New England Patriots. What's the one thing we know about the Patriots, Matt? They don't tackle anybody, and it's Week 18, so I don't think it's going to change. They give up a ton of yards on the ground, the New England Patriots. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 6,400, also a value. Look, you're probably going to want to go up to the Mike Evans or the Baker Mayfields today, or some of those guys are going to put up some big stats. So you got to find some salary relief. With Ken Walker out, Zach Charbonnet at 7K, also a good investment. So I'm going to fade the top. I'm going to fade the Bijan Robinsons. Like Jonathan Taylor, I think is a better investment. You're not going to have Saquon Barkley this week playing. He's out. Derrick Henry played yesterday. So the very top of the RB board is probably a fade. Rico Dowdle at 7,100 is okay. But again, I think it's Charbonnet, Tyrone Tracy, Ray Davis. And then also, I want to throw in Bucky Irving also, because Bucky Irving, another guy that I don't think people saw this season coming for Bucky Irving. He has been tremendous when all said and done. And I think that you're looking at him coming into this game today where there's nothing but opportunity for him. And it's a good spot in this game. The price, again, you have to pay for it, 7,900, a little bit more on the expensive side, but certainly some value at RB. So really, you have options, which is nice in Week 18. So what you're looking for at running back is, again, teams playing against teams that have nothing to play for, right? So you have Ray Davis playing against the New England Patriots, not much to play for. You have Tyrone Tracy playing against the Eagles, who are sitting everybody. Zach Charbonnet playing against the Rams, who are sitting everybody. So, you know, most of those starters will come out at some point. Now, the defenses, even some of those starters you'll see come out because you don't want to lose your best pass rusher in the fourth quarter of a meaningless game right before the playoffs. That's just a stupid thing to do. And there was also moments in that game yesterday when I was watching the Baltimore Ravens where I kept wondering, why is Lamar Jackson still in this game? Why is Derrick Henry still in this game? And I guess it's just because they were just trying to really reassert their dominance in this division. It looks like they basically have yet again.
And is there anyone in particular, maybe in the Niners in Arizona in the backfield?
I said, you just want me to say Grendo like Beavis. That's all. That's all he's trying. That's all he wants to do. I said Grendo. No, I don't know. I think I'm done with the 49ers. I think the 49ers are done. So let's just be done with it.
Niners. All right, let's go to the wide receiver position. Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Justin Jefferson is at 9,500. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 9 even. Malik Neighbors at 8,100. That's going to be an interesting play. Joe, walk us through the wide receivers.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some of the injuries on the defense of Detroit show up tonight. I think Jordan Addison for anytime touchdown scorer is a really good bet. I think Justin Jefferson could have a big game too. A ton of injuries on defense. And, maybe it doesn't show up against the 49ers, but it's going to show up against the Minnesota Vikings and the talent they have on that field. You've got Addison, you've got Hawkinson, you got Justin Jefferson, right? I mean, there's a lot of options here. So I don't know. I just think that Justin Jefferson is in a spot here where he might be able to exploit some of the deficits that Detroit has right now on defense, but he is very expensive at 9,500, so you have to pivot down. Malik Neighbors certainly is going to get volume. We saw that last week. Drew Lock played the game of his life much to the chagrin of Giant fans everywhere. Oh, what a horrible time to have the best time of your life. Ugh, boo, terrible. How do you knock yourselves out of that number one spot? Brian Thomas Jr., 8K. This is where I'd like to begin. This is where I'd like to start. Of course, everyone's going to have Mike Evans today, and the problem is his props are really high, too. It's around the 90 range again. So he has to, not only hit but exceed, and that's fine. I think it's a 99. I saw it in some market this morning, so already very high for Mike Evans. We all expect him to have a good game. In DFS, you could still put him in there with Baker Mayfield. You are positive he's going to continue to go against him. And it's not like his old friend Marshawn Lattimore is still on the Saints where he can actually stop Mike Evans. That's been his kryptonite. That kryptonite doesn't live there anymore. It's been moved to another universe. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I mentioned earlier, I think is in a good spot. Bounce back. Last week, disappointing. This week against the Rams, I think will not be. And then Cortland Sutton, who is just a few yards away here from going over a big bonus in his contract. We're going to break that down for you. That's another guy, too. Sneaky play, 7,300, as the Denver Broncos have to get in by winning against the Kansas City Chiefs today, now that the Cincinnati Bengals won last night. So Cortland Sutton's been that favorite target of Bo Nix all year. I don't expect that to change. And that's the nice thing. You kind of know. It's Bo Nix. It's Cortland Sutton. That's pretty much the offense. And maybe next year they'll get a running back. We'll see.
I think it's cool that guys like Cortland Sutton and Mike Evans go to their quarterbacks, maybe throw them a bone. If I hit this, there's, there's 6-7% in it for you. I think that's kind of cool, and I'm hopeful that things like that go down because it makes it a bit more accessible. Speaking of quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield at 8,400. Not that he's going to need any percentage of what Mike Evans can make, followed by Sam Darnold, 8,100. My gosh, spend some time and talk about him. And then the indoor cat, Jared Goff, 7,900, closes that portion out. Joe, take it from there. Where would you like to live today?
Well, there's a few options here. Baker Mayfield, very expensive. Kyler Murray, an interesting one, though, too, because Kyler Murray's in a spot where he actually usually plays pretty well against San Francisco. San Francisco just trying to tap out from 2024, I think. That's a kind way of putting it. But Murray has some incentives on the rushing side, too, where that might be a big bonus, including another rushing touchdown that could net him almost $750,000. So there's a lot of money to be made here at the quarterback position. Joe Flacco at 7K. At home in that environment, in that dome, is a really good one. So I would be looking at him, too. I like the over for that game. You can even go Mac Jones in that game, too, and just kind of stack that one. It's not going to be super popular, I think. I think a lot of people will roll their eyes and say, Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, but there's a lot to like there. I think actually that total is going to surprise. Sam Darnold has played really well, but again, like Baker Mayfield, very expensive. So I think Bo Nix, Murray, Flacco, I think that's where I want to live today at the quarterback position. I think I could still get 20 out of any of those guys.
All right, and now let's close it out with the tight ends. Trey McBride, 7,400. Brock Bowers, 7,300. TJ Hawkinson at 5,900. Quite a drop-off. Joe, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, Hawkinson at 5,900 is fascinating. To me, that's the huge value, and he is the fourth-ranked tight end coming into Week 18. So if you're looking at the rankings on the expert consensus on Fantasy Pros versus the pricing in DFS, something's way off here. So Hawkinson is a guy that I would absolutely be looking to. That's a great value on a guy who's that good. Noah Gray will be playing because Travis Kelce won't, and you've seen Noah Gray actually be pretty productive. And if he gets that touchdown from Carson Wentz, it's a good situation. Remember, Carson Wentz at his best was always looking for Zach Ertz, right? He's a guy that does like to look for the tight end. So don't be surprised if Noah Gray doesn't have a decent game there. Also, Kyle Pitts. I know it's been ugly. It's been disappointing, but the Carolina Panthers, one of the worst teams in the league against the tight end. That's a spot where you want to play him, and it's a must-win game for Atlanta to stay relevant, although it looks like they're going to pull up a game short there. And finally, Dawson Knox also playing with Dalton Kincaid, most likely sitting for most of this game today. So some options at the tight end position to fade away from the top, but obviously the top is pretty good for a reason. We come back. Let's look at the numbers. What do they mean? We'll tell you.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Vlade Divac. Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. It's time to go by the numbers, FST style. Joe, I've had a great time this season doing this. We introduced it here, and hopefully next season, God willing, we live and be well, we'll bring it back. It's a lot of fun here. So let's go to the first thing, and we've often talked about how there's such an influx of youth coming into the game. How do we wager upon it? What are some of the trends? Well, now we're starting to get a bigger sample size. So Joey P, walk us through something going on with the rookies this season.
Yeah, look, rookie teammates typically don't have big seasons together. Usually one or the other typically succeed, and certainly not very often do they succeed in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. But yet somehow the New York Giants rookie tandem has been able to be incredibly productive in 2024. So rookie teammates have 1,000 yards from scrimmage in the same season. Tyrone Tracy and Malik Neighbors are on this list now. So congratulations to them. Tracy came on strong, supplanted Devin Singletary. Malik Neighbors, one of the top picks in the draft. Everybody knew he was going to be special. Spent most of the year with Daniel Jones, and then a little Drew Lock, a little Tommy DeVito. How you doing? And the only other guys on this list, Abner Hayes and Johnny Robinson from Matt's youth in 1960, and then Reggie Bush and Marquez Colston in 2006. So really, it's not something you see very often, especially on teams that are bad. You know, those Saints teams there, that was with Drew Brees playing quarterback, where, sure, of course, Drew Brees can find a way to make more than one guy very successful. But it's a shout-out to Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors, and also Bears questioning, okay, how bad are the Giants next year? If they do get a quarterback, if they bring in a veteran, or if they somehow end up at the top of the draft again or trade up to the top of the draft to get their young quarterback, what do the Giants look like next year? Do they get rid of Joe Shane? Do they get rid of Brian Daboll? Do they just stay the course? The Giants have been known for stability. They don't like to hire people and fire people. It's not really been their MO. Sometimes they wait a little too long to make those decisions. But if you look at, since the Bill Parcells era, you had a little bit of Ray Handley in between, but then you had, some really good years with Tom Coughlin, and they've cycled through, and it's been hard since Coughlin's been gone to really find what they've been looking for. And Brian Daboll, I think, is a good football coach. I think their situation was they got caught in a division here where the Commanders got their guy. They popped off. Defensively, they have some pieces here too. They assembled a pretty decent roster. The problem was they spent too much on a quarterback that was not going to be able to help them. And it's unfortunate because that's basically the missing piece here. You just have to wonder, will those guys be there next year to fill in that puzzle?
Joe, all season long, been really good at distinguishing which type of props and why, and when it comes to position players. So when we look at the wide receivers, sometimes we're going for reception, sometimes we're going for target, sometimes we're going for overall yardage. The long catch is really showing up this season, and bettors are really starting to notice it. So let's look at the most catches of 20 or more yards this season. And some of the names, I would expect, but then there are some others where I go, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, you're not surprised to see Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase on this list, right? 27 for Jefferson, 20, I think, now for Jamar Chase from last night. So 20 yards or more, those are those big plays, those chunk yards that really make a big difference in a lot of these games. A guy that we were very high on coming into the season as a secondary wide receiver in Atlanta was Darnell Mooney, who's actually at the number 2 spot overall with 21 of these. So usually you're getting plus money on these where you're going over 20 yards, over 18.5, longest catch. It's a really fun prop to bet. And as we get to the playoffs, it's another opportunity. And today there's opportunity for this as well because you have a good matchup here for the offense. Michael Penix throws a really good deep ball. So you are in a spot here with Darnell Mooney where, yeah, I would bet this today. And Darnell Mooney has been a guy who was undrafted in a lot of leagues, especially 10-person leagues, that was somebody that really has contributed most of the year, basically from week 2 on. And it's unfortunate that the Atlanta Falcons had to wait too long. I think the schedule really put them in a bad spot because, you wanted to give Kirk Cousins that bye, see if he can get better. And then after that bye, you had Minnesota right after, and you weren't going to take that game away from him. And I don't think you wanted to throw Michael Penix to the Wolves in that Vikings defense that week either. So they really just got caught in a bad spot with the schedule where they couldn't make that pivot, I think, in the timing they wanted to. And unfortunately, lesson learned, but now they have their quarterback of the future, and certainly they'll have some more money to spend, hopefully, on that defense next year because the offense has plenty of weapons. The defense needs to get shorn up, and obviously the quarterback play, you need to stop turning the ball over. Hopefully Michael Penix can do that, but just wanted to point out, Darnell Mooney, been a big playmaker for the Falcons and for fantasy teams all year.
All right, now you mentioned a rookie wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, a rookie back in Tyrone Tracy, and I'm just wondering, is there a rookie quarterback that has anything this week by the numbers?
Yeah, I saw a meme this week that kind of grinded my gears a little bit, Matt. I'll be honest with you. It kind of pissed me off a little bit. And it was someone saying, well, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are basically the same stats. And I think that's just a really crappy way of looking at it. So I dug a little deeper here. Jaden Daniels has 12 passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter or overtime this season, the most by a rookie in NFL history. That's the difference. Wow. The difference is when the game is on the line, Jaden Daniels is making plays and getting W's, and Caleb Williams is taking sacks. That's the difference between Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. One is going to the playoffs. The other is playing for nothing today. So, no, they're not having the same season. Statistically speaking, are they in the same universe? Yes. But it's the context of those stats that I think matter the most. And I think this stat gives you context of why Jaden Daniels is getting all the love and attention and eventually Rookie of the Year.
All right, now it's time for teams with 0 Pro Bowlers. All right, I understand there are 4. Can you make an argument for anyone that missed out? Any snubs at all?
I don't think so. Tony Pollard had a nice season for the Titans, but again, it wasn't prolific enough. They had quarterback issues. Miami Dolphins, a team that, had quarterback issues at times. When Tua wasn't playing, the New Orleans Saints, quarterback issues certainly hurt that. Injuries galore. And then there's the Jets, who have been relatively healthy this year, right? Aaron Rodgers played every game, right? Breece Hall played every game just about. You had Devontae Adams come in. You made the big trade. Like, the excuses for the Jets at the end of the day are just that. They're excuses. For the most part, this team has stayed intact and healthy. They have just woefully underperformed. But I think with the change of regime at quarterback, this is a team that could turn around extremely quickly in a division that is still winnable next year. You can compete if you bring in the right quarterback-coach combination. I know Mike Vrabel interviewed this week with the Jets. I don't know if Vrabel's really a fit there. I think he's just doing that to push Bob Kraft to the Patriots, but we'll see. More FST as we continue a deep dive into the quarterback.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. And right before we went into the break, Joe mentioned coming back with a deep dive looking at quarterbacks, and social media just went absolutely nuts. At SportsGrid TV. So, Joe, just so you know, a lot of people are watching right now. They want to hear what you have to say. I understand we're taking a really deep dive into rookie quarterbacks, and this is where a bone of contention comes in with fan base, because that's your future. So if you're a Bears fan, and someone's disparaging Caleb Williams in any way, you're thinking that they're disparaging your line, your legacy. You know, that is your future. So, Joe, floor's yours, man, but I know you can defend yourself.
Well, look, I was just pointing it out because I am not the biggest Caleb Williams guy. You know that coming into the draft season last year. He's a tremendous arm talent. I think quarterback play has a little bit more to do than that. You know, can he make plays and extend plays? Sure, absolutely. Is he taking too many sacks? Absolutely. Is he making progress reading defenses? No, he's not. So a lot of it comes down to coaching and environment. And some of it is not his fault, but some of it is too. Some of it clearly has to do with how much work are you going to put in, what's your body language. You know, it's the same thing when I watch Kyler Murray play. Kyler Murray looks like a guy who is really good at football, but doesn't want to be doing it. And that rubs off on your teammates. I'm sorry. It's an infectious feeling. And I get a little bit of that same thing with Caleb Williams sometimes. When things are going his way, it's fine. When they're not, it's a bad scene. And I think that's the thing that separates winners from losers. And right now, Jaden Daniels is a winner. So if you look at the stats here, Jaden Daniels, 3,500 yards. Bo Nix has more passing yards this year than Caleb Williams. Bo Nix, 3,454, above Caleb Williams, 3,393. So, yeah, the environment has a lot to do with it. The coaching has a lot to do with it. They fired Shane Waldron. That wasn't the answer. They fired the head coach. That hasn't been the answer. Maybe Ben Johnson is the answer. He's the offensive coordinator from Detroit. And if I was the Chicago Bears, that's the guy that I want. I want the great offensive-minded guy to groom my young quarterback for what the NFL is going to be. He has got pieces to work with. There's some talent in this offense, certainly some talent at the wide receiver position. You desperately need offensive line help. And you can get that where you're going to be picking in the draft. You're going to be a top 10 pick. It's fine. You'll get a really good offensive lineman. You go sign some guys too. The defense is okay, a defense that you can win with. So the Bears are an easy fix. But yet again, what was that stigma going into this year, right? 4,000 yards passing. No Bear quarterback has ever hit that mark. and they ain't going to hit it this year either. So Ben Johnson's the guy. Ryan Poles should not be the guy because he has shown you that he is not good at picking coaching talent, not good at picking coordinator talent, and not good at making good decisions for the most part for this football team over the last few years. So it's time to clean house in Chicago. You theoretically have your quarterback, and I know this is the cycle there, right? You have a coach, you have the quarterback, you fire the coach, new coach comes in, they draft a new quarterback, they stink, and then the cycle continues on and on since John Fox all the way till now. So Fox, Nagy, Eberflus, it just continues to move on. Jaden Daniels deserves all the credit in the world for what Jaden Daniels done, because Jaden Daniels has done it in the big spots time and time again. And that, my friends, is what the quarterback position is all about. It's the leadership he provides. It's the infectious personality he provides. It's, hey, we're down in the fourth quarter. Don't worry. I'm going to make a play. We're going to make a play. And they do. That's the difference of where Jaden Daniels is and why he's in the playoffs. And then just want to point out here too, Drake May, he came into the season a little later, but Drake May has played extraordinarily well. That team is a T. Higgins and probably another offensive lineman or two. You got to fix the offensive line here. But the Patriots found their quarterback of the future without a doubt. He is that guy. Now they have to surround him with some weapons. You can't go into this next year with the same old Bill Belichick regime nonsense where you just don't give guys enough to work with. Tom Brady didn't have a lot to work with at the end of the Patriots days. He still willed that team to the playoffs. And what did he do? He left for Tampa, where he had Mike Evans and all these other incredible, talented players around him. They brought Gronk in there too. And what did he do? He won a Super Bowl the first year. So Matt, when you're stepping back here, I think Bo Nix is the biggest surprise, but it's clear that Caleb Williams is the biggest disappointment of this rookie class.
Absolutely. And then the way you play this game is switch the two. Drop Jaden Daniels into that Bears offense and switch Caleb Williams up to Washington's offense. Would they still be the same team? And I don't think so, because of the stat that you laid out is those late game heroics, just that composure and that understanding. You mentioned the most touchdowns late in the game, fourth quarter and beyond, held now by Jaden Daniels. So, yeah, there's something neck up about this kid that really, really shows, Joe.
All right, let's look ahead forward to hour 2 and to week 18. For you lunatics that are still playing, there's some start-sit questions we have to answer. Plus, in hour 2, we're going to talk about some of those incentives and those contracts, how those guys are going to make money, and how you can make money off those guys. Don't go anywhere. FST rolls along hour 2 right after this.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Bloody Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.